So this isn't me responding to a particular news story for this video. I just want to share some thoughts, um, or my current thoughts regarding reproductive rights. Um, Not so much like political strategy, although that is something we should deeply consider, um, but the more like theoretical, philosophical um, foundations of people's um, thoughts on the issue. Because I think I've become rather black-pilled about it all. Um, and I don't say that because I think like both sides are equally valid. I don't. Um, I should say right off the bat, I am pro-choice. I do support the legalization of abortion. Um, Not a fan of Bill Clinton, but I think he once said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable take. Um, Point being, um, I'm black-pilled about the abortion debate because um, people look at it through the lens of individual rights, right? They look at it through the lens of um, is it the is the fetus's do the fetus's rights outweigh the rights of the person with the womb, or do the person with the womb's rights outweigh the um, fetus's rights? Because that's another thing to keep in mind about this. It's not just a women's issue. I don't think that's a talking point that's used as much nowadays. It is sometimes. I mean, you hear that no uterus, no opinion. I think that's rather silly. I mean, I think the reproductive rights are a societal issue. I mean, and I should also say right off the bat that being a trans woman, I don't have a uterus. I will never have the pleasure and or misfortune of getting pregnant, so it's not going to affect me at that level, whatever abortion policy is. But it does affect society. And I read a really good article by a professor of Japanese studies at the University of Pennsylvania. The article is called Contestation and Consensus, The Morality of Abortion in Japan, by William R. Lafleur. And I really like this article because it traces like the history of a country that at one time had outlawed abortion. And then after the Second World War, there was population decline. There was there was a legalization process, and in fact, in Japan, conservatives are pro-abortion, and they're amazed by the conservatives in America who are anti-abortion. Well, why are the conservatives in Japan pro-abortion? Well, they're pro-abortion because they think it increases family values. They think it upholds family values, and it helps family values by not, not giving birth to any unwanted children, and by not like forcing the woman to go through something she doesn't want to. That they see it as a necessary sorrow, I think is the term. Apparently, Buddhism in general sees abortion as a necessary sorrow. And in Japan, they also have like these little rituals for the fetus. So I think the goal is for the fetus to, like the goal of the ritual is to make sure the fetus will be reincarnated at some point. I'm not well read on my Buddhism, but so I think it's fascinating that as a collectivist country, Japan came to the position that, well, this procedure should be allowed. Now, is that going to stay? Like, I don't know. I think there's been a population decline in Japan. I mean, there's a lot of like far right forces rising in the world. So it's quite possible that maybe under different material conditions, people decide, no, we need to go back to how abortion policy used to be in Japan. But I think to view this issue collectively, I think is the correct path, because you have to think about the cost to society. What is the cost of allowing people to terminate pregnancies, and what's the cost of not allowing them to terminate pregnancies? Well, I think the cost of not allowing them to terminate pregnancies is immense. The cost of, well, illegal abortions, which will increase medical costs. It'll increase deaths because the abortions won't be as safe. It increases, I think, trauma in society because it decreases. There's a crack in the social safety net at that point. And it's the state coercing someone to give birth. Because if you're truly a pro-lifer, I think you truly want to outlaw abortion, I should say, because there are pro-lifers that don't want to outlaw abortion. But if you want to outlaw abortion, I think you have to say that, oh, no, the state must coerce anyone with a uterus that gets pregnant to give birth. Well, I don't think the state should have that power. I think that's a fascist hellscape waiting to happen. I mean, that is to give the state that power. The thought of living in a community that gives the state that power, I think, is terrifying. And I think the better path forward is to say, well, okay, if it's legalized and regulated, I think that decreases trauma. I think that decreases health costs. I think that makes the society as a whole healthier, happier. And not to mention, I think in a society like that, you're also going to have better communication regarding sex, better education regarding sex. And, obviously sex education and contraception decrease the need for terminating pregnancies to begin with. This is a much longer video than I was intending it to be. I will wrap up. But so, like I said, I think the abortion, we should no longer view it as individual rights clashing. We should view it as, given certain potential abortion policies, how would that affect the community as a whole, the society as a whole, and go from there. And I think when we look at it through that lens, that the pro-lifers, the pro-choicers, have it in the bag.